The tribe, one of their numbers was butchered. This is a wake. Fighting is my security.
What the hell is Loomis going through?
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down to Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, and want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all that information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
So, Gene, as I'm sitting here, I'm realizing not only is this our Halloween movie for 2024, this is history for Shat The Movies.
Mm-hmm.
This is our fourth film in a franchise. First time. It's a big one. We did Halloween. We've done Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and then we did the Halloween, which you enjoyed the most, Halloween 4. So Rob T wrote in, and he had commissioned last week's pre-Halloween appetizer, Carrie, and he was kind enough to commission another gem to go back way to 1981 and review the John Carpenter sequel, Halloween 2. And Rob T also called in again with his wonderful British accent to tell us why he commissioned this for the 2024 Shat Spooktacular.
Hey Shat crew, Rob Will Taylor here, and honoured to get the 2024 Halloween Shat commission with what else but Halloween 2. I first saw this when I was about 6, so a little bit later, but I always loved the way it just picked up right where the original left off, to the point today I consider them one movie a la Kill Bill. Even if they strictly did have different directors, I still watched them as one movie. It ups the gore, violence and boob count, but it also has some truly beautiful shots. I don't just mean Pamela Shoup's boobs. I mean shots like the old man, his wife and Michael in one frame. I mean the liminal spaces of the hospital and the CCTV of Michael just roaming around. The kills are better, the characters are more likeable, and there are some real moments of pathos and realism, like Sheriff Brackett's grief, his arc abruptly ending, Jimmy's brain injury in the TV version. He survives. You know, it depends which version you get, because there are different ones out there. The biggest elephant in the room is the sibling plot that John Carpenter claims he was drunk while he wrote it. He hates, and he made sure it was dropped to the detriment of the recent trilogy. Killed Halloween Kills. Any of you who have seen both films, put this hospital attack back in, and the whole Evil Dies Tonight and the riot at the hospital makes far more sense. If you then just say Loomis burnt the file, Marion goes to tell Laurie the truth and dies before she could do, boom. The whole sibling arc's dealt with, much better film, much better trilogy, everything works. You know a Halloween and a horror film is done well when they kill off the killer and the fans don't even realise he's really dead. And that's what's happened here. They tried to do the anthology afterwards. They didn't tell people. It didn't work. They had to bring Michael back by popular demand. So I'm looking forward to the Shat Crew's take on this. For me, it's still a solid 2. It's not the original. It's the bloodier, more violent second half.
Rob, this is such a smart introduction to Halloween 2. You said so many things in such a short amount of time that really set the groundwork for what we're about to discuss. In particular, how much more I got from this film than I did from Halloween 1 or the original Halloween, and yet at the same time poking some holes at the flaws in this film. So, we talk a lot about how a commissioner makes us feel a little bit of pressure to be kind to a film or handle it with kid gloves, or other times when they invite us to do our worst. But I think here, Rob, you just left the door wide open for us to be honest in our feelings about Halloween 2, and I'm excited for this one.
But again, kid gloves. I have to think about what was Rob T's childhood like. He said it right here. He was 6.
Yeah.
He said in the same sentence, he was 6 when he saw this, and it upped the boob count. What was going on?
I mean, you got to remember, he comes from a culture that gave us Naked Attraction. Okay. Like a fucking TV show where they slowly strip people. You get to see people's dongs, and then the chooser also has to strip down. There, again, Big D, we're just puritanical Americans here. How could we ever understand the advanced philosophies of Europe?
I agree. And Rob seems to be a well-adjusted adult. So maybe more children should be raising this. I was questioning today with Emma. I said, at what age could I possibly show her Stranger Things? Because I showed her Beetlejuice and Vanessa was not happy. We watched it on a plane, or actually I watched it with Emma first, then Vanessa watched it with Emma. And it gets to the part where she's like showing her wrists, the receptionist in the afterlife. And Vanessa looks at me and goes, "You watched this with her?" Yeah, some parts were inappropriate, but 6 to watch this or Stranger Things. What age do you think it's appropriate to truly scare a kid?
I think you need to have like a 90-second video of Brazilian culture highlights queued up from like YouTube on your phone at any given time. So if Vanessa says anything, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, this is your people. This is what your people do." Scandies, you guys are much more appropriate. Well, Halloween 2 is a 1981 slasher flick starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance, who reprise their respective roles as Laurie Strode and Dr. Sam Loomis. It is the second installment in the Halloween film series and is a continuation sequel to Halloween from 1978. The plot picks up directly after the cliffhanger ending of the first film, with Michael Myers following survivor Laurie Strode to the local hospital, while his psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, continues his pursuit of Michael. Though John Carpenter wrote the screenplay, he delegated a good portion of the directing role to rookie director Rick Rosenthal. Filming took place in the spring of 1981, primarily at Morningside Hospital in Los Angeles, on a budget of $2.5 million. So, Big D, as you mentioned, this will be our 4th Halloween picture. And after watching Halloween, Halloween 4, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, I took it upon myself to watch Halloween 2 before this movie was even commissioned. And that ended up coming in handy when Rob commissioned it, and it really put me in the mood for spooky season.
Gene, off the top of your head, how many Halloween films in the franchise, not counting re-releases, do you think there have been?
12?
Damn, you're pretty close. 13.
13.
If I wasn't cheating looking at the list right now, I never would have thought that. The first film, it was a big hit, 47 million. That's nothing compared to the 2018 160 million. So
Jeez.
The franchise, I mean, it kept going. It kind of petered out there with the Halloween kills and the ends. There's diminishing return on the films. And if you look at this film, I think it suffered the same thing. 47 on the original. This came back to 25 million, but it's not bad on a $2.5 million budget. It's pretty good. But the 80s were the apex for the cheesy slasher films, and I loved them. I absolutely loved them. I don't understand now what my fascination with them was, because even now I'm uncomfortable. I'm a 51-year adult with an AR-15 about 15 feet away from me, and I'm nervous when I see that poor security guard stumbling around, or I know that the third door where the lock is broken. I know Michael's back there. I feel uneasy, and I'm waiting for Michael to jump out. So what is the joy? It doesn't make me feel good. Maybe it's that forbidden thing that when you were a kid, your parents said, "Oh, you can't see that. That's too violent. It's going to screw you up. Oh, that music's going to make you do something." And maybe that's why we loved it. But I was too young to have caught these early on. So it was nice when Friday the 13th, which was my favorite, and Nightmare on Elm Street, I got into those. I was like, wow, ready-made trilogy for me to go back to. So this is a big film. I still love it to today. We're going to differ on whether this is an upgrade, Rob and you on one side and me on the other, whether this is an upgrade from the original. But this is a must-have. And Rob, thank you for having us complete 4 of the 13 films in the Halloween series.
Well, happy Halloween to everyone out there in Shat Nation. Let's hit the trailer.
Yeah, and watch out for those razor blades.
I shot him 6 times. I shot him in the heart. This man, he's not human.
Universal Pictures presents Halloween 2, More of the Night He Came Home.
Who is it?
There was nothing within him, neither conscience nor reason, that wasn't even remotely human. This is some kind of a joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. You don't know what death is.
Janet, go tell Mr. Garrett we're having trouble with the phones.
There is no place to hide. He will always find you.
What's this? It's a Celtic word. It means the Lord of the Dead.
Mr. Garrett?
Halloween 2, More of the Night He Came Home.
On October 31st, 1978, Michael Myers is shot by a psychiatrist, Dr. Sam Loomis, and falls off a balcony. Michael survives his wounds and escapes into the night. Wandering the alleys, he steals a kitchen knife from an elderly couple and kills the teenage girl next door. Meanwhile, Laurie Strode, who narrowly avoided being killed that night, is taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, while Loomis continues his pursuit of Michael, accompanied by Sheriff Lee Brackett. Loomis mistakes teenager Ben Tramer for Michael due to Ben wearing a similar mask, resulting in Ben being hit by a police car and burning to death. The bodies of Annie Brackett, Linda Vanderklok, and Bob Sims are discovered by police. Upon learning his daughter has been killed by Michael, Sheriff Brackett blames Loomis and abandons the search, leaving Deputy Gary Hunt to take his place.
First off, Gene, I don't know if this story can take place in any other town besides Haddonfield. You need a special mix of circumstances to make the 15 or 13 films happen. We go back into the town and we're introduced right away to the way that Haddonfield treats victims, which is a huge part of this film. Because like you said, it opens up immediately after. So we're seeing that, in case people didn't see it, they're going to replay the last 3 minutes of the film. And I'm uncomfortable with the way that professionals or the civil servants treat privacy of the Haddon victims. There is very little respect for these people, let alone dead bodies, let alone the people who have been mauled, physically changed, traumatized for the rest of their life. They're rolling gurneys out in front of their neighbors, their loved ones. I'm like, surely they're not going to uncover the body. Yes, let's uncover the body. The cameras are there. The press is there. Everyone is aghast. The police are not keeping people back. And luckily, Gene, you have a journalism background. The journalist doesn't have to do much investigating because the body comes rolling out. You've got radio, TV, print journalists. They're all standing there. Loomis, who is a raving madman, comes running up to one of the police officers and just lays it all out there. It's real simple. He has almost like he had a bullet point list. Michael was my patient 15 years ago. I shot him 6 times. I shot him 6 times. I shot him 6 times. That wasn't the boy who we burned today. Michael Myers is not human. He's probably still alive. He's running around here. The reporter goes, holy shit. She takes out a little notepad, turns around and goes. Gene, in this situation where you've got trauma, the police aren't doing their job, you've got a killer hypothetically running around. Do you take what you've learned and warn people, or do you do your due diligence and verify the information first?
So, Big D, I, being 44 years old, come from the old world of journalism, and it's pretty much irrelevant these days, right? Like these days, you've got YouTube, you've got TikTok, you got people filming everything from every angle. There's a distrust of the institutions. There's a distrust of police. When I was a reporter and an editor, we were not allowed to print anything without authorities confirming it. Like we could have seen it with our own eyes right there outside of the house, bodies being pulled out. We'd have to be like, okay, sheriff, so was that a body I just saw? Like, yeah, it was. But there were times, Big D, when a victim's family would call or stop by the newsroom and tell us everything. Or like the suspect's family would come by and be like, no, that's not what happened. You know, you got to listen to us. And we still had to get it confirmed by the chief of police, by at least like a watch commander or the fire department or whoever was in charge of that scene before we could print it.
Do you notice how many times the guy on the TV, the reporter says, 3 bodies found, 3 bodies found, 3 bodies found? It's almost like subconsciously he was trying to call the police out because the police have no control of this town. It's a wild situation. And I almost wanted the press to be like, these fucking cops don't know what's going on. I'm leaving town. I'm going to end up in a body bag.
No, I mean, the cops clearly needed it, right? Because it ended up being like the TV broadcast that, well, one, that told Michael where the fuck Lori was, but also...
We also told him what streets to avoid.
So
10th Avenue and Chestnut. There's police there. Stay away.
So yeah, let's establish that 21-year-old who's been shot 6 times and came from a mental institution is faster at picking up that maybe I should go check on Lori at the hospital than the entire police force, the U.S. Marshal's office, and 2 psychiatrists. Okay. And speaking of like just bad police work, you got that sequence with Ben, the teenager who's wearing the Michael Myers mask. He's drunk. He's walking around with this bag of candy. He gets fucking like hit by the cop car, catches fire. There's an explosion. And they're like, oh, could this be Michael Myers? Well, we got to wake up the dentist. The dentist has got to come check it out so we know if it's Michael Myers or not. And yes, it makes for good suspense. It makes for gore as they have to go to the morgue and like check out the body. But they're calling for a dentist to check the teeth. Let's think about what we know about Michael Myers. Big D, you just said it. The reporters know it. The police know it. Dr. Loomis certainly knows it. He's been shot 6 times. Okay. Yeah, the body might be a little crispy, but Big D, you got a military background there. You think you'd notice if someone had been shot, even if they were dead and set on fire?
There's going to be holes in his clothes. Yeah, he's wearing overalls. It had to have gone through the overalls at some point.
Maybe some broken ribs, punctured internal organs. No, we got to wait and check the teeth. And then they say, this kid's 17. Well, it can't be Michael Myers. He's 21.
Well, and you got to talk about the whole situation, the way this goes down. We talk about the press investigating. Why are the press not saying, hey, sheriff, hey, police representative, is it true that one of the doctors was running around with a loaded pistol chasing children, which led an officer to lose control of his car and run over a potential child or serial killer? Nobody asks that. And how about somebody try to help? That's a car accident. And the police all just stand there and go, wow, that looks like, that mask is melting to his face. Should we help? No. Wait until it cools down. Then we'll get a dentist to then check the records. No.
On to the hospital. Paramedic Jimmy develops an attraction to Lori, but head nurse Virginia Alves limits the time he spends with her. Michael makes his way to the hospital where he cuts the phone lines and disables all the cars in the parking lot. Wandering the halls in search of Lori, Michael kills the security guard, the doctor, the paramedic, and several nurses. In her hospital room, Lori dreams about the time she learned she was adopted and remembers she once visited a young Michael at the sanitarium. Jimmy and nurse Jill Franco grow increasingly concerned and search the hospital for Lori, who is trying to evade Michael. So, Big D, we've already established police in this town, not so great. I also want to talk about the hospital staff. There is a child in this movie with his mom going to the hospital. The kid has a razor blade stuck in his mouth. The implication here clearly is that he ate some Halloween candy with the razor blade stuck in it. We all heard this story growing up. I think parents still, I'm guessing, hear about that today and warn their kids about it today. Oddly, Joel Best, who's a sociology professor at the University of Delaware, his area of study is contaminated candy. And he's been studying it since the 1980s. He said that there are no substantiated reports of a child being seriously injured or killed by contaminated Halloween candy or food. And he says that fear of razor blades in Halloween candy is an urban legend. But regardless, in this movie, it does happen, right? What does the nurse do? There's a child who just walked in. There's nobody else in the waiting room. And she looks at him with a razor blade stuck in his mouth. And she's like, go wait in the room for the doctor. That's it. Not like, let's check you out. I mean, you are a nurse, are you not? Can you look at the razor blade in the kid's mouth?
Gene, you're underselling it. I think in the journalism, they say you're burying the lead.
Yeah.
It's not just in his mouth. It is perpendicular. It looks like it got caught between the gap in his front teeth. So it is sticking out of his mouth. You can see it. You can see what it is. How did mom not just, hey, Tommy, open up your mouth. I'm going to pull it out. It's there. It's not in his mouth. It's not stuck in his cheek. It's not lodged in his throat. It's there to see. And the nurse is like, yeah, okay, go take a seat.
Yeah, cool thing about razor blades, famously thin, easy to remove.
Easy to remove. You could take it out. Instead, she's shoving a towel like in his face, and she's going to push it down. And we get a series here of medical and just professional. I hinted that this town has a serious lack of professionals and civil servants. Where are the other doctors? This seems like a big town. Why is there like a handful of cops? There's one doctor and like 3 nurses, one who's not there all the time. Why is there one security guard?
One drunk doctor.
Yeah, I suspected that as well.
He was at the country club.
Yes. And he comes in, and we've had some drunk doctors before, but where is everybody else? Hey, it's time to come in. There's been a tragedy. All hands on deck. So we get the nurse, and she is hooking up with Bud, and they have some kind of relationship, and it goes a little further than the innocent kids sneaking off to hook up. She is the nurse on duty. The other nurse is her supervisor. They have the security guard. She's in charge of watching like the NIC unit, the young kids, the babies. There's at least 3 that we see. Bud is horny. He's worked up. He's just worked a multi-murder scene. He's driven him in. He can think of nothing else but getting laid. She's a little hesitant. He says, come on, let's go to the therapy room. So I'm like, all right, it's 3 doors down. I'm thinking it's going to be a quickie. She'll maybe jerk him off, get a blow job, something simple. I did not expect, Gene, the honeymoon suite hot tub spa treatment, where next thing I know, they've taken the time to fire up the therapeutic jacuzzi. They're in there completely naked. She's got a robe on, which she has to take off. It is a full-blown like romantic scene. And she's like, oh, we just got to be ready in case somebody comes by or the babies cry. What are you going to do if the babies cry? You're going to run out in the hall naked and go nurse the babies? What are you going to do if your boss comes down? It's ridiculous. There's nothing. You should have given him a blowjob and it would have been fun.
This is where we've gone wrong as a society, though, Big D, because you and I in 2024, we're thinking handy. We're thinking blowy. Get back to work, right? That's just the man has conditioned us, right? Our fast disposable society. But back then, man, in the early 80s, this was the era of white wine, of hot tubs, of candlelit dinners, right? And you took your time, you enjoyed yourself. They lived it up, man. And the movie does a pretty good job establishing that of the shitty civil servants, of the shitty hospital staff, Karen is the worst. She is not a very good nurse. Like even Alves points it out. She's consistently late to work. She's pretty unprofessional, as we see. But I really liked how professional Alves was in contrast. She handled Karen's poor performance in a great way that I've actually started using at work, right? And it's effective. It's not personal. I should probably start using it on the podcast too. I could just say, Big D, I'd really hate to lose you as a co-host, but you keep blowing deadlines. See, it's not personal. You're just telling the person, right? But it works so great at work. Hey, I'd really hate to lose you, but you got to stop making mistakes on emails. Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful stuff.
But if I'm designing a hot tub, let's say we're now in the medical device industry.
Yes.
Why would you create a tub that has a zone that says danger? There should be no situation where the tub gets to 120 degrees.
Right.
So you shouldn't need to put it there. You're asking for a lawsuit and liability. Why would you have that?
Maybe to sterilize it?
No, so you have a different machine. You're not going to sterilize something in the size of a hot tub. You'll have like a little thing to sterilize blades and things like that.
For blades to sterilize the tub.
No, you have chemicals for that. What do you think they're going to... No, that was ridiculous. But I was hoping for one thing, Gene. So as the romantic scene in the tub's going, we get to see that Bud has been lured away by Michael, who likes to do this. You separate, you conquer. He goes off to look because she's like, oh, it's so hot. It's hot. He goes into the room where there's the gauges that are now going into danger. And we see a silhouette. He's been in the hot tub with her. She's definitely working on him. He's worked up. We see a full profile. There is no erection. No. I was hoping, push it, like be groundbreaking. Show the silhouette of the penis, and you have Michael just go whoosh, in the shadows, and you just see him screaming. Maybe blood hits the window, and he's dead. Could have been groundbreaking.
Take it a step further, because I believe that his death was strangulation, and he died real fast, right? But like, you could also just make a statement on the blood flow too. Imagine he's getting strangled, and boop, you know. Let's go. Yeah. But then now we're in Betty Blue territory, though. We're in French cinema.
But then they double down, and he comes out, and instead of killing the nurse, he decides to wait for the water to boil, and then he holds her under like he's boiling an egg or he's doing pasta.
Yeah.
I know where he's showing that he's impervious to pain,
right? And
he wants to make a point, but he just mauls her. Her skin starts coming off. If you're going to go gross, chop his dick off. It's something we haven't seen. We've seen people with their faces peeled off, but it's whatever. But I would not want to be, even on its best day. Let's say it's before Michael comes to town and it's a normal day in Haddonfield. I do not want to be treated in this hospital. Because you talked about, Gene, when Lori gets out, you know, she's whisked off into the ambulance and she comes back here. And this place seems like a medical nightmare on all fields. Lori survived the attack. You have to think, the ambulance showed up because of a police report. Hey, triple murder, victim survives, let's come get her. They put her in the ambulance, she comes in. No one seems to have any idea why she's there. She shows up, and they're like, oh, you have a fracture in your leg. Oh, do you have your tetanus shot? And Lori's like, fucking tetanus shot? I was just attacked. All my friends are dead. No one seems, oh, don't worry, doctor's going to fix you up in no time. He's going to stitch you up. And then they draw blood. I know this is 1981, Gene, but I went and did a full panel for my annual tomorrow, my annual physical. They pull out, looks like a turkey baster, and they pull out about 6 ounces of her blood. What they're drawing for, I don't know, but this seems like a situation. So she's right. When she says, don't sedate me, she should not be in this hospital.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about the blood draw. But I checked with Sarah, whose mom is a nurse in Michigan, and it turns out that like that low staffing and the super lax procedures, they're pretty consistent with small town hospitals, particularly in the 70s. And I'm always stunned, actually, when I do go to hospitals. I think the last time I was at one was when my mom had some like digestive issues, and I went and visited her at Chandler Regional. And there was like nobody stopping me from walking to the back. I just walked all around the ER. I could go into like any room I wanted to. Nobody checked to see who I was. There was one time I went to the hospital in a Spider-Man costume. It was on Halloween, oddly enough, and nobody cared. So I think that it's possible that in Haddonfield in 1981, or sorry, well, it would have been 78, actually, in 78.
Correct. Yes, good point.
In Haddonfield, on Halloween night, like this is what you got. But you mentioned the sedation, right? And from my understanding of the rules when it comes to sedation, patients, they can be sedated without consent. Like you're allowed to do that as a medical professional, but there are certain ground rules, right? They have to be combative or like a danger to themselves if they're hurting themselves or pulling out their like, you know, intubation tube or something like that. Lori isn't doing any of that. Like she's begging kind of quietly, like, just please don't make me go to sleep. And like you said, Big D, she's just been attacked. A person who's been violently attacked, whose killer has not been caught. They're like, yeah, he's still out there, right? Maybe you understand why they don't want to be sedated. Maybe you don't forcibly sedate them. And again, where is her police protection? We've seen that there are multiple officers available. Some of them just standing around in front lawns. You couldn't spare one cop to watch over Lori?
yes, she has every reason to worry. She not only she's there, people don't seem to know the threat. There's no police presence. But then you have Jimmy, who it doesn't seem like they have a friendship. He just knows who she is. And he oddly is coming on to her like, hey, don't worry. I'm going to keep you safe. I'm going to protect you. And she's like, all right, I'm in my hospital bed. This really isn't a good time. She's smiling at him. He's a bit creepy. I was half expecting him to have something that he had done because he was really interested in her physically at a time where he should have been consoling and being professional.
Yeah, there were a few minutes there where I was getting some like Kill Bill vibes. Like, you know, I'm Buck and I came to fuck. I was a little worried about that. But here's the thing, though. Jimmy was really cute. Like that dude's, he's kind of hot. And so I think that the audience was meant to go like, well, yeah, clearly he's super fucking cute. So she's going to be into him and it's not a problem.
Yeah, but I couldn't picture him doing anything else but playing video games in a trailer park. That's all I could see him doing. Going out and fighting with his, what is it? The Death Blossom. Do you remember him?
Yeah, from Last Starfighter.
Yeah, I think these are his two main roles. And after that, it was all downhill.
I mean, when you slip in a giant pool of blood and bonk your head, and that's like your big scene, your career's not going anywhere. No. After finding Mrs. Alves dead, Jimmy slips in a pool of her blood and knocks himself unconscious. Police are informed that Michael broke into the local elementary school earlier. Just busy guy. And Loomis rides with them to investigate. His colleague, Marion Chambers, arrives with a U.S. Marshal to escort Loomis back to Smith's Grove on the governor's orders. On the way, she tells him that Lori is Michael's younger sister and was put up for adoption after the death of Michael's parents, with the record sealed to protect the family. Realizing that Michael is after Lori, Loomis forces the marshal at gunpoint to drive to the hospital.
Okay, so now this is where we're going to start to differ. The movie's fun. It's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's fun. But I think we're going to differ here. You have to admit that the plot seems rushed and a bit sloppy.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're okay with that because it's kind of fun, right?
Right. Yeah.
So first one comes out, tiny budget, makes $47 million. It's a bigger hit than anyone ever expected. So you have to come back. You have to restart it. But how do you do that if Michael's just a normal guy? Okay, so we're going to have to change some things. We're going to retcon. We're going to build this backstory. But you shouldn't do it at the cost of everything else. And you should have done it slowly. Here we get everything is just thrown up on screen. And it's a bit ridiculous. You go from he's a human to now he is just superhuman, indestructible, which we'll get to. But the background story, you said within the first couple of minutes, she's hallucinating for the first time, having these memories clear as day. She's looking at her mom and her mom's like, I'm not your real mom. Then she's meeting Mike. These are all big moments. She's not had these memories. And maybe we'll say the sedation gene is what triggered it. Possibly. Maybe that's what it did. But then they go above and beyond.
Having half of the blood in her circulatory system pulled out of her body.
Besides the wound, Gene, right? The doctor had said, she's lost a lot of blood. Let's take some more. That's a bad idea, doc. So maybe, yes, it's a mix. She's on the edge of death, and she's having that flashback to all the moments in her life. And that unlocks this vault of memories, her real childhood. And they invent this whole backstory about Michael had two sisters, the one that he's killed in the original, and then Lori, who was born 2 years after, and then secretly, adopted out, but they put her within the same town that the murders happened. So all the neighbors know who that is. They're like, hey, that's not Laurie Strode. That's Laurie Myers. And Michael then breaks into a school. And I presume he took out crayons and drew a family tree and put a knife into it. You have the expert from the facility where Loomis works comes down and reveals that there's sealed documents in court and the whole backstory. Why not just make this just more obscure? Make it Michael has some emotional connection. There's a family tree. We don't know what it was. Wouldn't it have been better if they did a little bit less with this backstory?
My theory is that they had the original screenplay and somebody looked at it and was like, wait, so the whole thing's at the hospital? I'm like, fuck. Okay. Also, there's a school. Michael broke into a school. Yeah. And then they did some drawings there. I think they just need to go somewhere other than the hospital. And imagine if we didn't have the school in this movie and ham sandwich lady. Okay. Like this movie would be like the murder scene and then the hospital. So I think that's maybe they needed some more like variety there, but I wouldn't classify this as like recreating the origin story. They just really awkwardly fleshed it out. And Rob's insight that you know, John Carpenter was drunk when he wrote this, it makes a lot of sense. But the joy in this film does not come from Laurie's story, and it doesn't come from Michael Myers' story. It comes from Dr. Loomis. Okay? Because Dr. Loomis, he is everything to me. We talked in our Buckaroo Banzai episode about these overpowered characters of the 70s and 80s. I just can't get enough of these guys. And I wish there were more characters like this today. I want a rock star who also drives experimental vehicles and does brain surgery while also knowing how to fight, right? Dr. Loomis, he is the Buckaroo Banzai of the Halloween universe, okay? Psychologist, esteemed psychologist, right? Philosopher, poet, detective, and he's like a commando, all rolled into this oddly, like he's a middle-aged bowling ball of a man. Nothing about this guy says action star, right? He's very serious about everything that he has to say. His accent, you can't quite place it. And I think Halloween 2 was wise to make the movie about Dr. Loomis. We got so much more of him in this film. And I just like, he's got to be the best character in this series, right? Is he your favorite?
Fuck yes, of course. Yeah. Of course. Just think about the man, right? Donald Pleasance, he was a legitimate Hollywood star in the 60s, like a serious actor. So for him to get this role where he can let loose, and I don't know if this was like a defiant role where he was like, you're going to give me this little to do in this ridiculous. I'm going to fucking go balls to the wall and make him a wild man, John Milius type, where he's ranting, Gene. And you hint about how he's acting. He's a bowling ball of destruction. In the first film, he's kind of that weird doctor who knew something was wrong with Michael. He saw something that nobody else did. Here, he is out of control, fucking lunatic. He should have been arrested before Michael should have been arrested. Before the accident that kills the kid in the costume, he sees a kid in the street and pulls a gun, goes running down the street, and the sheriff's like, hey, or a deputy, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he's chasing the kids down. The neighbor has just a normal, like, concerned question at the Myers house, or where the Strode house, where the murders were. And he comes out and goes, what's all this trick-or-treating going around? It's going to be the death of me. And Loomis looks at him very serious and says, you don't know anything about death. Or what death is. I'm like, whoa, okay. Loomis is over the top. I said that he screams, I shot him 6 times when the police show up. 6 times. I shot him 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 in the heart. He's not a human. I shot him in the heart. I shot him 6 times. That's exactly what he says to the cop. The cop's like, whoa, Loomis, hold on. What's going on? And then Loomis in the car starts spouting off like weird philosophical comments, Gene, when they're trying to burn down the Myers house. And he goes, the tribe, one of their numbers was butchered. This is a wake. Fighting is my security.
What the hell is Loomis going through?
He's having either a mental breakdown on screen as Donald Pleasance, or he's just doing everything that's pent up since the 60s.
He's amazing. He's just, I was so sad. I was so sad when we lost him.
The tribe lost one of their numbers.
Oh, no. The tribe, one of their numbers was butchered.
Fucking wacko.
Was that ad-libbed? That had to have been ad-libbed.
What did you people do? Fire a warning shot in the fucking car? Well, Joe finds Laurie, only to be killed by Michael, who then pursues Laurie through the hospital. Laurie manages to escape to the parking lot and hides in a car. Jimmy regains consciousness, apparently in this version, and tries to start the car, but passes out again and lands on the car horn, which Michael Myers hears. Loomis, Marion, and the marshal reach the hospital just in time, and Loomis shoots Michael until he falls down. While Marion calls the police on the marshal's radio, the marshal tries to check Michael's pulse, and Michael slits the marshal's throat with a scalpel.
So in the 80s, we had the 3 big killers, Freddy, Jason, Mike Myers. Each one of them has a sense of dramatics. They like a little flair. They want their killings to be special, spectacular. They just don't want to murder someone. It has to be the right situation. They have to present it. It's almost like a chef. It's not that the food tastes, it's the experience of the murder. Was the scene set correctly? I think it's a bad investment in time. The security guard, who's going to find the security guard? What's the chances that somebody's going to go into that storage room? He takes the time, he does a nice knot, hangs them up, turns the light on so somebody could come in. It's a nice, spectacular surprise. You got him in the hot tub, let's position the body. You kill one of the nurses, let's set it up. The doctor with the needle in the eye. It's the flair for killing, Gene. It is nice. Would you be the type of killer who would go around and just murder and disappear? Or would you want people to know this was Gene the killer and this was Gene doing this?
I'm notoriously slow at everything I do. So I think that I would definitely be in this school of killing, right? I get carried away by whimsy and imagination. And so I would definitely take too much time, probably get caught, but as long as I can get shot 6 times and not die, I'd be okay. And I mean, Michael doesn't have a choice here. All we're working with in Halloween 2, it's a hospital. So let's talk about his body count. By the end of Halloween 2, it's 16 victims. That's if you include dogs, okay? There's 7 in the first one, 9 in this one. There's got to be pressure from a filmmaking perspective to make every death unique, right? Otherwise, the audience, they're going to get bored. If you can imagine, all Michael Myers does is walk around stabbing people, that gets old after a while. And basically, up until this movie, all he'd done is stabbed and strangled people. So you got Jason, you got some competition there. He's doing pretty elaborate shit. He's got a machete. He can arrow people to walls and stuff like that. So Michael Myers has got to do something a little bit different. And so we get into the more elaborate killings here. And I like that it started getting a little unreal too, like doing things like stabbing somebody with a scalpel and then lifting their whole body up. Cool.
Yeah, but then you got her up and the shoes fall off. It's like zoinks. It's you can feel that it's a little less serious.
Yes.
And I know you guys thought it was fun. I think it's fun too, but it's such a dramatic change from the first one, which was very bare bones. It was very simple. This one immediately, it is a different film. You can tell. The first murder, after Michael, he shot 6 times. Does it slow him down, Gene? Fuck no. He doesn't even need a couple minutes to go regenerate, to use some kind of black magic, to heal. He is back, the old couple making the sandwich. He picks up a knife. Then he goes into the sheriff's daughters. When she turns around, he pops up and there's an audible boing, like a spring from a Looney Tunes cartoon. Stabs her. I'm like, okay, this is a very different. They're not going to take it so serious. That whole crash and the burning body, it's comedy. You have Loomis screaming, I shot him 6 times. Logic's out the window. There's been murders. Michael is in his outfit, shot 6 times, walking down the main street as cruisers drive by him, normal town folk, and then he sees conveniently, hospital, that way. There's a lot of convenient moments, and no one seems to notice him there, where the movie took like time to set up that what happens is plausible. The kid's actions are believable. Here, it's just like you said, balls to the wall. Let's have fun. We got a little bit more money, even though we have only one location. Let's just throw suspension of disbelief out. And it's a little hard for me to really enjoy it.
I think this is one of those rare moments, though, where I found the sequel to be better than the original because of this pivot. I didn't really get Halloween until I saw Halloween 2. It was something like a religious experience for me, because at the beginning of this movie, I was kind of annoyed, like you, that Michael Myers, who is just a dude, was shot 6 times, everyone say it together, and walked away to immediately start killing again with no need, like you said, for any medical attention or even a breather. But by the time we got to the marshal being killed, I was a changed man. Something happened to me during this movie because I want Michael Myers to be unkillable. Like, we need him to be unkillable because it makes it so much fun. Instead of crying bullshit at him surviving another 6 rounds to the chest, I was thinking, uh-oh, you stupid shit, as the marshal checked his pulse, right? We have changed from being on the victim side. We're now fully Team Michael. And I think that's what makes slasher films great. I think that's what I finally understood is we're not rooting for the survivors. We're not rooting for the good guys. We want Jason. We want Michael. We want Freddy to win because it's so much fun. You feel safe. You know what it's like? It's like gangster rap. You know, white kids in the suburbs, they're listening to gangster rap because they're like, hey, I'm a gangster. Like I'm on the tough guy's side, right? I'm not a victim. That's me. And I think that's how we feel about these movies. It's exciting and we can be on the side of the killer. And when you're on the killer side, you're safe.
Well, you see, I have to differ here because I saw these films when I was young and I did feel that security because I was the camper. Jason never killed the camper. I could hide under my bed. Jason would see me and he would let me go. When I aged out into the teenager and then I was his victim, it became different. I wasn't pulling for him then, you know, but one thing I'm glad they didn't do, and this is, I think 4 goes into it, where they start talking about the mystical, like black magic, which powered Michael and how it healed him. And they start doing all that weird shit where he's like down in the river, you know, and he then he starts to like reconstitute and heal. And it's a bit weird. They start dropping some of the road work to that here. Loomis starts spouting off about human nature and about the spirits and the gods, and he goes a bit fucking wild. And I have to feel like there's part of this film where they started to tell that story and then it ended. Because the whole weird thing where Jimmy slips in the blood and hits his head, Jimmy finds the head nurse on a gurney with an IV in. I had the feeling that Michael was doing a transfusion, that possibly Michael had been injured. He was in the hospital, did some patch up work, and it had an IV on, and then fell. Because otherwise, the situation made no sense. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't theatrical. He didn't string her up. She was there like he was drawing blood and had to leave. There had to be some theatrics to this that was explaining that Michael was doing something to heal himself.
I mean, he did a pretty shit job. It was all over the floor. But
Awful.
yeah, okay, so here we go. He's been killing only to try to find a person with the right blood type. Then he finally finds Alves. Maybe he's got a rare blood type. She's got the same blood type. And he's like, oh, finally. And he can tell by, I don't know, taste, something.
No, I think he was probably just putting everybody in. Michael doesn't seem too discerning. Michael's a universal recipient. He'll just take everybody's blood, and maybe that powers him. Maybe that's the key, Gene. Mix the bloods, and then you become immortal.
And he's got to heat it up. That's where the hot tub.
That's what the hot tub was. Yeah, if you boil it, it's like disinfecting it. Yes, you distill it, and then you can just take any blood type.
Loomis and Laurie run into an operating room where he gives her the marshal's gun before being stabbed by Michael. Laurie shoots Michael in both eyes, blinding him. As he swings the scalpel around the space violently, the two fill the room with flammable gas. Loomis orders Laurie to get out before igniting the gas, immolating himself and Michael in an explosion. Laurie watches as Michael, engulfed in flames, emerges from the fire before finally collapsing. The next morning, Laurie is transferred to another hospital, traumatized but alive.
So the end of this film, it starts becoming evident that they have the one set. Laurie is hiding out in the car. She looks at the front door no less than 5 times. We keep waiting for Michael to come out. It doesn't. Then we get Jimmy comes out. And me being just a little brain dead, I thought we were going to see that Jimmy had like a scalpel in his neck. I forgot that he had the head injury because he's talking like, we're going to get out of here. Let's start the car. I would be like, Jimmy, what are you talking about? And there's a scene earlier on, Gene, where Michael is slowly walking down the hall after he's chased her through a window. And she gets in an elevator. There's no way this door is going to close in time. Michael puts his hand in the door. He's stopped the elevator. Then he pulls his hand out. Was this dramatic flair, Gene, or was there something else going on here that maybe Michael didn't know how an elevator worked? Help me explain this.
Yeah, at first I thought it was like a Sigourney Weaver and Aliens sort of thing where he was like, it's my sister. Okay, leave her alone.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I can't. The elevator thing was, I think it's beyond comprehension. I
thought maybe it was like the Velociraptors trying to learn how to work the doors, the door handles. Maybe Michael didn't know. He's like, yeah, because he's 21. He's been in an institution for a while. I don't know if they had elevators in there.
Fair.
But I feel guilty now after we're talking about this film in the fun ways to try to be logical. And the way I do a lot of times, I get too serious and I try to nitpick it. But we get to the end here and you talk about they're going to fill the room up with gas. And they obviously worked backwards. They said, okay, we know that he's impervious to bullets. You can't stab him. You can't do anything. What could we do? We could burn him. Okay, how do we burn him in a hospital? Well, they got those big tanks of gas. Oh, this is great, guys. Great, guys. Okay, everybody, let's get around the table. We're going to have him in a room. But how do we get Michael stuck in a room, but yet Laurie can escape? Okay, how about, we make it so he can't see, sir. That's a great idea. What can we do? What can we do? Maybe we could throw sand or some kind of powder in his eyes. Okay. We've seen that before. What else could we do? Maybe a needle in the eye, sir? No. We did that earlier with the doctor. Maybe we could blind him with one of those surgical lights, sir. No. How about we shoot him in both eyes? Yes, that's what we're going to go with. How is this the best idea, Gene? You can have that Michael is immortal. Michael could survive, right?
Yeah.
But if you start blowing off limbs, it's lazy. It's stupid.
Yeah, but it looks cool. Like seeing a dude with that mask, get shot in the eye holes, and then he's stumbling around swinging a scalpel, and there's blood coming out of those eye holes. It's cool. It just looks cool.
You couldn't have come up with a cooler way?
That's what looks cooler than that.
What if, Gene, you own firearms? If I shoot you in the eye, what else will happen? Show the back of his head blow out. I want some catastrophic physical harm. When Jason got the machete in the head, we see it open up like a ripe cantaloupe. Give it to me. Do it. Was it a pellet gun, Gene? Was it a pump action pistol?
Okay, so hold on. So U.S. Marshals famously in the 80s only carried a 1911. So that doesn't really have much stopping power, and it really wouldn't blow anybody's brains out.
Come on.
No, it's a joke. It's a fucking huge gun. It's a fucking huge gun.
Dude, I didn't know. I thought maybe it was like you got a pea shooter back there. We got limit collateral damage.
But clearly I'm not fit to judge this entire scene because I'm a fucking dumbass. When Loomis exploded the operating room, I was like, oh, yes, explosion. Because, yes, I understand that ether is flammable, but ether, it's an anesthetic. So I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, that's genius, guys. Yeah, if you can't kill Michael Myers, just make him really sleepy. Knock him out.
But here's the other thing. Loomis, they should have been gasping for air too. Like they are, right? So Loomis goes, Laurie, run! And then he gives her about 4.2 seconds.
Yeah.
Give Laurie 10 seconds to go down the hall.
He's going to pass out.
Dude, so you go out the door. Michael's fighting. He's flying blind. You go out the door. You wait until Michael finally, like panic room, gets out, and then you light it up. But yeah, because Donald Pleasance famously did not want to come back for this film, which is maybe why he acted like a wild man in his role. But it was like Harrison Ford. He wanted to be killed off. He came back later on. But yeah, this was part of it. You had to come up with a way to kill Loomis and to kill Michael in a dramatic way. But shit, man, that was I wanted to be in that writing room to see how this all went down.
The way you described it was like a meeting of the Joint Chiefs. I really want to see that. All right, now is the time in the podcast where we give our Shat score for Halloween 2. Our Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get our perspective. But 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when amazing grace sits on your face. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a film. It's being afraid of the dark inside ourselves. I'll go first. By dialing up the Loomis factor and developing a stronger sense of humor, I think Halloween 2 improved on the original, which I famously did not really care for. It does get a bit repetitive. It happens almost entirely in the hospital, but it's a bit of Halloween fun. It put me in the mood for the holiday. It's 2 wipes for me.
So, Gene, I'm going to call an audible. I was going to do 3.5, but with our conversation and going back and looking at the scores I've given, I gave the original a 0.75. I gave Halloween 4 1.75. And then I gave Season of the Witch 2. I think this is serviceable. I think it's 2.5. It's fun. It's fun. I was just looking for the darker side, but yeah, it's a little lazier written. It didn't make as much money, but it's fun. It's kind of wild. And I see why they went to the anthology, because you had double the budget and you had half of the return. So yeah, it makes sense. I can't imagine the studio being like, yes, let's greenlight another one of these, until they saw Season of the Witch was a disaster. And it makes complete sense. But I like the ending, the very end. The movie keeps going back and setting up your expectations. Laurie drives away again. You're thinking we're going to see Michael under the ambulance. We're going to see some way that Michael's come on. Instead, we get Mr. Sandman and Laurie just looking out the window. And maybe that's where the Halloween movies could have ended. And it would have been good. It would have been a rewarding end. So I think 2.5 is fair.
I really could have gone for a series, now that I think about it, where instead of Michael coming back for each film, it's Dr. Loomis. We just follow him as he investigates different sorts of paranormal things and psychological aberrations. That's something I can get behind.
Well, do you remember the anthology Friday the 13th? Funny you say that. The television series?
Yeah.
Which was, for those who didn't see it, I think it was like an antique shop where all of the items were somehow, it was all like kind of like needful things.
Yeah.
To where these 3 investigators would hunt down these paranormal items. And each of the episodes was different, Friday the 13th. Maybe you do that. But in the end, the reveal would have had to have been that Loomis was behind most of it. He was part of the cabal that set up this power, and he would create these monsters because he's highly incompetent. If the fact that he escaped, he knew Michael was a danger, and then Loomis just went along and pretended like he was trying to stop it, when all along that man was more dangerous. What's the kill count of Loomis? He got the kid in the street killed. 100%.
That was not his fault.
He chased the kid into the street.
The kid was drunk.
Yeah,
kid was drunk.
Friends, if you lose one of your friends on Halloween, tell the police he was wearing a white William Shatner mask. If you tell the police that, immediately they know your friend was the one who got killed. Instead, you say, he was drunk and wearing a mask. Was it a raccoon mask? Was it a clown mask? Was it a hood? But it was fun.
Getting back to the math, that's 2 wipes from me, 2.5 wipes from Big D. That gives us an average wipe score of 2.25 wipes for Halloween 2.
So, Gene, that now ties this in the 188 spot with True Romance, Clerks, The Final Countdown, Liar Liar, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Go, and Gattaca. So now let's compare that with the other Halloween films. Halloween 4 was a 1.75. The first Halloween was 2.42. And Season of the Witch, I said, was tied. So, yeah, they're all roughly right around the same area, but Halloween 4 came in a little bit better. So, yeah, it's entertaining. It's perfect around this time of year to sit down and watch Michael again. So thank you very much, Rob T.
Agreed. Thank you, Rob, for 2 excellent choices for the Shat Spooktacular 2024. I am satisfied and ready for Halloween. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, I'm already thinking past Halloween now with what's coming up after this. We're breaking through another threshold. We're going back into the 2000s, people. You've clamored for it. You've begged for it. And this is a movie that deserves it. Propelled to the top of the fashion world by the photogenic gaze he calls Blue Steel. Dim-witted male model Derek Zoolander thinks he's got a 4th consecutive win as male model of the year in the bag. But then his rival, Hansel, unexpectedly takes the crown. Derek is crushed. He becomes easy prey for a fashion designer, Mugatu, who signs Derek to star in Derelict fashion show when brainwashing him to kill the Malaysian prime minister. Commissioned by Steve. This was his fantasy football win. Steve, good work, my friend. We're going back to 2001. Ben Stiller. Fuck, Gene. I know you hate the 2000 films, but this is worth it.
Oh, I will go to the 2000s for this movie all day long.
Some of the best cameos ever.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one.
Well, thank you, Hot Sauce Steve, for the upcoming film. Thank you once again to Rob for our Halloween Shat Spooktacular. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next time for the following movie.
He's suave, debonair,
So courageous.
the epitome of cool.
You rule.
His name is Zoolander. Derek Zoolander.
He's almost too good looking.
international male supermodel.
The style and the hair, you know, it's almost like the new afro for the white man.
But behind those eyes is a highly trained man of action.
You rock. No, you rock.
And perhaps the world's only hope of stopping a sinister assassination plot.
The fashion industry has been behind every major political assassination over the last 200 years. And behind every hit, a male model.
So why male models?
They do as they're told.
That is not true.
Yes, it is, Derek.
Okay.
Ben Stiller. Owen Wilson. Will Ferrell.
They're breakdance fighting. Taste my pain!
Christine Taylor.
When I was in 7th grade, I became bulimic.
You can read minds. Zoolander
Must be eliminated.
They must use all their skills.
If I can create a basic disguise for us with this professional makeup kit, we may just be able to sneak in undetected.
Surprise! Did you find the files? They're in the computer.
They're in the computer?
To outsmart the most dangerous organization on the planet.
We got 30 years worth of files right here in this computer that are gonna bring you down.
Oh no.
Where'd all the files go?
And still find time to help the children.
I give you the Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good.
What is this?
A center for ants?
How can children learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
Zoolander.
Come here. Okay, come here. Come here. Okay, I think we got the answer. Okay. What's the deal?
I keep pulling my eyes and it keeps popping into my head. I can't get
Okay.
it out.
So you have to chill out.
I can't.
You can. You can. If you want to, do you want to go sit on the couch? No, don't. Just go lay down and I'll come as soon as I can. So turn the lights on.
No.
Yeah, so you can turn the lights on and just chill out. Okay? Close the door, please. I love you. Okay, there's our answer. She will not be seeing anything scary for a long time.